Let's talk about Gennady Golovkin. Obviously, a fantastic fighter, a fantastic servant to the sport, and still going strong now, even towards the tail end of his career, let's say. What's it been like to work with Gennady, first of all?
I mean, it's great, because he's a hard worker. So it's extremely great.
He certainly comes across as a model professional.
Yeah, he is. He's the same guy you see on at the press conference, the same guy you see in the gym.
Let's talk about the upcoming fight. Obviously, you're doing the press tour currently, the Canelo Golovkin trilogy, fight 3. What are your thoughts and opinions on the first 2 fights, first of all?
I thought they was closer than what people may give it credit for. But I thought the first one, I thought G put away the decision on the first one. Second one, I can agree. I can see why they had it a draw. I may not understand it, but I can see why. But they both G and Canelo, they both different fighters now than they was then.
In terms of the first fight, I think a lot of people felt Golovkin won that by a fair margin, myself included. Did you guys feel aggrieved by that? How do you get over a result like that?
Well, you just put it past you, just like the same thing you do with a bad breakfast. You eat a good lunch, have a good dinner, wake up the next day hoping for a good breakfast. It's just like that, because if you live in the moment, it's like your mind go always taste that same bad breakfast. So no matter what you eat, you still go taste the same bad thing, instead of just putting it past you and going for something fresh.
With the fight coming up, what is Golovkin's approach for you guys? Is it the same as it always has been? Same approach to every fight? He seems a bit more, I wouldn't say he's sort of trash talk in this press tour, but for Golovkin, it's, I suppose, trash talking of his standard as such. He's not a very vocal opponent, I would say.
He's not very vocal, but I mean, it's like he said, it's reality. That's what he said in the press conference. He said, "This is reality. Come on." He said, in his exact words, he said, "Come on, guys, this is reality." He said, "We both go get in the ring, we go fight." He said, "My goal is to win, and we go put it all on the line." And that's exactly what's gonna happen. And that's the reality of it. Someone's gonna win, someone's gonna lose. And that there is the reality of it. So that's what he's looking at. That's basically what he's talking about. That's what he's doing.
With Canelo fluctuating between the weights, gone out to light heavyweight, come back down to super middle, do you feel that's going to be a disadvantage for him?
No, I don't think it is at all. I mean, because no one said nothing about him stopping Kovalev at heavyweight, so he could come back down and stop somebody else. He stopped a guy like Plant. They didn't say nothing about jumping him down weight class. So people only really start talking about it because he lost. So sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. It happens. But every time he lost, he came back strong.
Absolutely. I just want to move on to another big fight coming up. Anthony Joshua, Alexander Usyk, another rematch. How do you see that one going, first of all?
That's a hard fight. It's a hard fight for both fighters. Although Usyk made it look a little easy, but anybody in the ring with AJ, if they say it's an easy task, whether they win or lose, I don't believe them. But he's a hard fight for anybody as well. Usyk is a nightmare for guys because the way he just moves and box. And I don't know what difference AJ gonna bring to the table, but I would love to see it. And that's what we're waiting to see. Right now, you have to give the edge to Usyk because he won the last one. But let's see what AJ brings to the table, what any difference that he's going to change, that he's going to do to be more efficient in the second fight. Because it looked like he got hurt in the 12th round of the last fight. And it looked like Usyk, if he wanted to, he could have went in. He could have tried to go in for the kill, but he was just going in. He was just boxing. And he got caught with, AJ got caught with a lot of punches.
In your opinion, as a trainer, what would you do with AJ? What would you say he needs to change going into this fight?
Movement and rhythm. Movement and rhythm. I mean, to stand flat, to watch somebody move and think you go time them, it's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. That's like, it's almost like playing tag and you don't run. You standing still, playing tag. You always gonna be it. you ain't gonna never. It's not, that game won't be fun for you because you always gonna be it because you don't run, you don't move, you just stand there. Looking to tag somebody. So yeah, all they got to do is move 2 paces back and you miss. So
he's brought in the addition of Robert Garcia into his training camp. Is that a good addition moving forward?
I can't say whether it's good or bad. I don't know. I mean, I don't know too many heavy guys that Robert Garcia trained. So I can't speak for that.
Do you think that's a factor? For example, yourself, obviously you work with some heavyweights and now Golovkin as middleweight. Do you think it's a factor working with a background of fighters in that weight category?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a slight difference because most heavyweights, when you work with them, you have to be true. You have to be true to their opponent. Like you can't be. Oh, it's just different. It's slightly different because that's always been one of the key divisions in the sport, and it's always been one of the highest knockout ratios in the division. So you make one mistake, the fight can be over for you. The heavyweight division always been like that. So maybe that's how I'm looking at it.
Just talk to me what it's like to learn from Emanuel.
It's like if you had a pen and pad, the whole pad to be filled up day by day. And to me, everything that pretty much he was doing was like everything was all about lessons. Everything was all about a teaching moment for me. I mean, he was just going through his daily routine, but it was all teaching moments for me. I was just learning, and in the beginning, I didn't realize I was learning from him until, I started asking questions and doing different things and talking about different things, and talking about boxing and etc. And, stuff like that. I didn't realize, and the sad part about it, I didn't realize how much I learned from him until I had to put all those things to the test when he asked me to start being the coach. And my first idea was, I don't have no idea to be a coach, but I didn't realize how much I learned from him. It was amazing.
What was it like? He obviously saw something to become a coach. What was that conversation that you had with him when you did start training?
The only conversation that we had in passing, he was saying, I remember him telling me, I walked past him and hey, Jonathan, come here, sit down. We was in training camp in Austria. And he said, if I ever can't make it, he said, you about the only one I could think of that could take over training Vladimir until I get back. I'm like, wait, what? I said, man, I ain't no trainer. He said, listen, as much as we talk, you think a lot like I do. He said, so when we talk, we agree on some of the same things. He said, I think you could do it. I said, and my exact words was, I said, man, as much as I appreciate that, I ain't got no issue. I ain't got no plans or no ideas about coaching. I don't want to coach nobody. I'm fine. That's it.
When you did start coaching, did things start to make more sense? And did you relate to more what I know Emmanuel had said to you previously when you were in that role?
I always related to what he said because to me, he just was a genius. I didn't understand it at the time, but I did it anyway. And I'm like, oh snap, this actually is work. It was crazy. But like I always, I listened to, like I said, I listened to what he said, but it's just once I don't know, it's just something about doing what I saw him do. And I started doing it, and I'm like, I don't know. It was the weird. It was. I can't even describe the feeling about it. But everything I do, that's why I'm so careful about what I do, as far as being in the shoes of the trainer, because that's my inspiration right there.
So I'm sure, obviously, with all his wisdom, he's giving you a lot of tips, a lot of advice, a lot of his wisdom there. What's the one piece of advice that you would say that he gave you that you still use to this day in your coaching role?
He said, at the end of the day, winning is all that matters. He said, you can have a bad performance, you can have a great performance. He said, but get out there and get the win. He said, you could fix anything else after that. But he said, get the win. Because as long as you keep winning, he said you can fix the mistakes, but just keep winning. That's the goal. It's just to win.
Absolutely. Talk to me a little bit about being the head coach, the main voice in the corner. Firstly, with Wladimir Klitschko.
Honestly, I kind of, like when I first was asked to do it, and when I was asked to do it, it was by Wladimir. I didn't know how I was going to talk to someone who I seen win the gold medal in '96. And he was winning the gold medal in '96. And I was start boxing for the first time in '96. I'm like, what advice can I give him? What can I say? But now looking back at it, it's just all about boxing. It's all about giving instructions. Some guys I think needs motivation. Some guys need to just be told what's the best thing to do. And I was fortunate enough to start off with Wladimir because he was the one that I was fortunate enough to say, just tell him what's the best thing to do.
You mentioned, obviously, he was, Olympic gold medalist in '96. He was just starting out. So it sounds almost like in your head, you felt like, who are you and what position were you in to advise Klitschko what to do? Was that a battle that you have gone through in your head throughout your career, potentially?
I'm not going to say a battle, but it was a thought process in my head. Like, what possibly can I say? What possibly can I say that he haven't heard, or this or that? And it was mainly because who I was coming behind. That right there was the deal breaker for me. I'm like, I can't compare to this. But at the same time, I remember the words that Emanuel told me is keep it simple, keep it basic. He said, Jonathan, I deal with basic boxing. Keep everything simple and basic. Because when the fighter get tired, he ain't gonna remember all that fancy stuff. He only gonna remember the basic stuff. So I just kept it basic.
Just to mention 3 names that you've worked with. You mentioned Klitschko. You worked briefly with Dillian Whyte, and obviously now you're working with Gennady Golovkin. What is it like to adapt to different fighters, their different styles, and their different backgrounds as well?
I mean, that part is easy because when you go through the amateurs, you go through pros, you used to dealing with different styles. So that part became easy for me. I adapt to it because, like, in the amateurs, you have to. You don't know who you're fighting the next day. Before going into the tournament, you can assume who's going to be there, but you don't know. So, I mean, to me, that's just how it is. So that part is kind of easy for me.
So in terms of your training sort of strategy or your tactical side of things, do you find that sort of one size fits all, or do you, like you say, or do you take things from your fighting days and use those as a coach?
I mean, I don't take nothing from that, but the experience of knowing what my guys feel in the ring, because I know how it feels to be in it. But everything is all about being technical, it's all about the technique and the strategy. That's what everything's about for me, because that's what's gonna win the fight: the technique and the strategy.
Absolutely. Well, Johnathon, I want to thank you for your time. I appreciate it. It's been a pleasure to speak to you.
Pleasure's mine. Thank you.